sounds for all of our major organs and like emotional resonance or emotional regulation. So if you just ate something sticky, go wash your hands. And of course, you never have to do anything. You can always just watch. Good morning, hello. All right, so let's get started with sense of bum, which is a literal, just notice that you're on a surface. I'm on a big comfy chair. My legs are curled up like I'm sitting on the ground. If you're sitting on an office desk chair and it swivels, see if you can find a way to be on it that it's going to stay relatively stable. And so we can start with just some very gentle, this is the lymphatic drainage. You're just going to come right to this point in your collarbone and very gently press and pull. And it doesn't need to feel like a big deal in order for it to work. I have to remind myself of that sometimes. So our lymphatic system, our lymph, is a part of our circulation experience that only moves when we do. And for some of us, like I had a mastectomy, you might have EDS or other connective tissue things. It can be helpful to just give this fluid some assistance. I'm already salivating and swallowing. Hello, hello, hi. All right, so the next spot is to take Spock hands to your ears. So you have fingers in front of and behind your ears. And then we're going to take it in little circles. Yes, I have been known to do this in the middle of an office when I still worked in offices. No, I don't care if people think I'm strange. They hire me for my weirdness anyway. If you ever feel like you have like clogs in your ears, like down near your eustachian tubes in here, this move can be a nice way to encourage, again, just encourage the lymph to move towards the heart. And then our circulation takes over. We got to get it to the heart. Okay. The next point is right where you might feel for swollen glands. And it's, again, very gentle, very, very gentle. Something I like connecting into when I'm assisting my tissues in this way is, let's go in the other circle. I like to connect to the idea that the inner child, my inner child, that is carrying all my wounds, gets a little bit of a signal that it's okay to let them go, just to like reduce some of the burden. It can feel very heavy, especially if we're carrying wounds from early childhood, and many of us are, myself included. So we have some lymph nodes here. We're just saying hello, hello. If you need to cross your arms to do this, you're welcome to. Remembering your sense of bum, remembering that you're on a surface. Yeah, your whole body is being supported by something. Hi, Wanda. Hi, Kitty. Hi, Susie. So now we're going to go under the arms, and it's just like a little cup in a circle. I can understand if you don't want to do this one in the office. Like 6 or 7. It doesn't take very long. And as we're here, again, the lymph starts to move in our tissues, issues in the tissues, you might say. So that when we move into the breathing for our organs, there's a little bit more space maybe. Next is your inguinal groove, which is a very fancy word for right about where your bikini line would be. Ooh, thank you. So like just right into your hips. I have some cushion, shall we say, a little bit of a pudge. So I kind of like move it out of the way and go under it. And then the last spot is behind your knees. So this area here, that was very, what's the word? Ladylike, wasn't it? And you're just gonna, oh my goodness, who was that? Darla's here having a meltdown. What a surprise. Okay. All right. I'm going to bring up a background for my friends on TikTok so that you have something to look at. I'm not quite smart enough to get it on this other streaming reality yet. Yes, Darla, you're the most important ever in the whole wide world. Stop, ma'am. Want a biatch. So if you're in the land of TikTok, you're looking at a bottom-up view of your brain that has on it a map of our inner landscape. So this is where we experience our insides. Yeah. And then to the side of that, you can see I have the Shen visualized. So this is my art, but it's China's model. And we're going to go from the top down. So we start with our lungs, which are the metal element. And metal here is literal metal, like the iron in our blood. It's also like all the substructures that make things happen, like cellular division, the way that our fascia holds our bones together, the way my cat's having a meltdown. And the pattern for the breathing is to smile to the organ, breathe in the yum, breathe out the yuck. Neutral. You don't even have to like seek the emotions. We just want to get the gas exchange, kind of like muscle memory. So if you just take a moment to come back to your sense of bum, and I invite you to bring a gentle smile to your lips. So if you bring the tip of your tongue to the ridge behind your upper teeth and just smile, just a little bit. You might find that your eyes close, which is just great, just fine. And the attitude is the attitude of kindness and compassion. So I invite you to send that smile to your lungs. And you can find your lungs by taking a breath in and out. So smile to your lungs. The emotions associated with our lungs are grief and courage, and the sound to balance that is an S sound. So on the inhale, you breathe in courage. Let go of grief with S. Really quiet. Inhale, courage. Exhale, grief. And it's just on the inside, so you can hear it. Courage on the inhale. Grief on the exhale with an S sound. A couple more rounds. So these are quiet breaths. They don't need to be long. And ideally, you're not chasing your breath. You're just experiencing it. If it starts to feel really bad, do something else. The second sound is for the water element in our body, and that is located most in our kidneys, in your low back. That is Zhu, is the Shen, and she helps us with our hearing and our inner balance, the way we experience the horizon. Like if you get seasick or car sick, this is on you. Yeah, I get that too. So the emotions are shock and calm, and the sound is chew. So you breathe in calm, let go of shock. Quiet, quiet. The color of this is deep, dark blue. And this water is a little bit saline. This is like the water of tears. Nice and easy. Chew, chew. Take a breath in and out. Next is your liver. Liver's going to be on your right side. So you're in a car in the United States, you are on the passenger side for your liver. It might be looking flipped in your computer screen. The sound is shh, and that's the quiet shh, like you would do for a baby. Forgiveness and anger, color is green. So we're inhaling forgiveness, just the right amount, whatever that is, and letting go of anger with that shh. This is the hun. Shh, connected with our sense of seeing. Shh. Shh. And take a breath in and out. Betsy, hello, hello, hi. Next is your heart, your actual beating muscle. So maybe you can find it, make sure it's beating. This is love and hate. The color is red. This is the blood, the fire of our blood. So breathing in love, letting go of hate with ha. And again, you don't have to seek the emotion. It's the cycle. So inhaling joy and love, letting go of hate. And the Shen for our heart is also named Shen. So our heart is considered like the sentinel, the leader of all of our major organs. The last major organ before we go into the inner landscape is your spleen, not your stomach, but it's in that same area. It's in that same zone. This is where we experience trust and worry, according to Chinese cosmology and Chinese medicine. The sound is WHO, like that. And the emotions are trust and worry. So this is a good way to disrupt ruminating thoughts. When you get in those thought loops, you can just on the inside, quietly. One more. Breathing in and out. The last thing we're going to do is remind this inner child who lives in our heart that they're okay and that it's possible. Healing is possible. Doesn't all have to happen today, may not happen completely. And as long as we're living, growth is happening, repair is happening. Thank you. So that sound is he. Just real quiet. And that he sound you can think of it like cooling the hot head and warming the cold feet. So we're tempering the climate inside. Come on, Darla. You can sit with me. On our inside, that inner child, I have with me a visual aid to help you with these 3 energy centers on the inside, our belly, our heart, and our head. Okay. So like if I was to make myself into an anatomy image, I would put this little magic egg, like right on my sternum. This yellow zone down here is called Jing, Jing. That goes with the fact of existence. This is undisputable. And you never need to provide evidence. No. So come back to your sense of find where you're connected onto a surface. This is neon yellow all the way down into the belly, and just smile down to your belly. Oh my goodness. I have my hands on my belly. My belly is not perfectly flat. Oh well. So Jing is considered a treasure. It's the treasure of living systems, and it's the treasure that connects us to the totality of life, including plants, including the Big Bang. The activity of this lower center, the stuff that happens down here, this is all like reproduction. And it doesn't mean that you're reproducing. It's just where that action is in our land of Jing, our lower energy center. Corresponds to Earth. The second zone is in the center, this middle zone. If you're looking at this Nijing 2, this chart beside me, you can see that we have our inner child visualized right where our heart would be. And then there's a little landing where there's a lady on there, and her name is the Weaver. She's sitting at that spinning wheel because she helps our body do whatever the automatic like healing factors are. Cosmically, she's like a princess, and she lives up in the star Vega in the night sky. So when you smile to your chi, to your energy, your heart space, this is the fire of, like when you look at a sunrise or a sunset over the water, it's the fire of awareness and perception, a little bit different than the fire of blood. Chi, energy, life force. I'm just smiling to this area. And then the third treasure, or the third zone, is going to be your brain itself. And I invite you to imagine, like, there's a line. I have a thing here. So we have a line that goes from the front to separates the front and the back of us. This is called our corona. This is the passage between our efferent and afferent pathways in our brain. And then we have this other line here that goes with our spine. So they make a connection point on our skull. Imagine you're smiling to about where that would be midway in your brain. It's called the crystal palace. And that is where like thought originates. And it's also where we experience our own sense of soul or connection to infinity, however you understand that. Could be quantum, could be God, could be anything. But smiling to your brain, your actual noggin. Nice and easy. When I first learned the healing smile, I thought it was the silliest, most ridiculous motherfucking thing anybody had ever asked me to do, okay? We're going on like 30 years now. It is not ridiculous. One of the things that the smiling does is it lifts the turgidity. It changes how our tissues are to themselves in our neck and ears and shoulders. And that can release some tension. Also, we are so very good at being assholes to ourselves. I'm just going to assume I'm not the only person whose self-talk is sometimes horrendous. So here's a way to step into a neutral zone where you're just practicing creating affirming feedback loops of kindness and compassion. And the Shen, cosmically, in Chinese cosmology, are all of the factors that we cannot touch and anything that connects us to systems and evolution and the universe. I didn't make it up. I think it's a very clever way to contemplate. So we have the 5 phases: metal, water, wood, fire, and earth. Those goes with our major organs. And then we have these 3 treasures: Jing, Qi, and Shen, which I'm showing you. They're typically not shown, but I'm showing you. And they always go yellow, magenta, blue. They're always going to stack like that. So I wanted to do a little bit of that. And then I just made an oracle deck. And I thought, ooh, let's look at some oracle and pretend like we know all the secrets of all the universe and let the Buddhas and the Taoist immortals just guide something. Does anybody have like a question that you want to ask? Oh, I guess this is one of the cards. Oh, we got 2. Okay, what do we get? Ooh, yes. Excellent. We got the Tower and Emperor of the Curved Array. This is the Tower. This is the Curved Array. The Tower card in the regular tarot is like you have completed something and it falls apart. The way this works in Chinese cosmology is more like how you would go into a library and the stacks in a library that are, you can just go and see all the amazing books and select something to read, and the stack remains stable. So that's part of what the cosmology that I'm bringing forward with this work guides us towards, is the idea of stability. And in our bodies, this bottom part of the stack corresponds to the bottom of the Ni Jing too. Our base is contemplated as cinnabar, which apparently is also where you get mercury for your alchemy. Go figure. What is the hexagram for this, Darla? The Tower's numerology is 8 because its number is 17. So you would reduce it to one number. 8 equals infinity. And the Western thought that I've placed with this is the idea of a taxonomy. A taxonomy is a way to organize information and categorize things based on their inherent qualities. It's what we use in the taxonomy of species. It's true. You and I are in very close taxonomies. So as humans, Homo sapien, our whole lineage would go, and we can look at it even in this Ni Jing too with these Shen: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. We have those 2 yin and yang at that's our feet. Genus, species, Homo sapien. Yes. This trigram translates to following. It's lake over thunder. Thunder has a lot to do with how we experience our own immunity and like all the ways that we perceive that are not optic. Yeah, Can you all hear my cat having her meltdown? So, you know how like if there's a storm and you can hear the thunder before you see the lightning? Or does it go the other way? Darla, I'm trying to remember. Really? She wants to sit on my chair. I'm not going to let her. Taxonomies are really amazing ways to organize information because they're not based on a hierarchy. They're based on categorize. You know, it's much more like when you go to a video store and there are categories of videos than it is like going into a flow chart for your company. A taxonomy is a bottom-up geometry that holds something called tensegrity, where you have fixed categories, you might have some fluid, and you can navigate it infinitively, and it'll just grow and scale organically. This is not how we're typically organized, especially humans who look like I do. We tend to think of things in hierarchies. This is more like the biologic way of contemplating. And the Tower card, though, in the regular tarot, oh my goodness, has a lot to do with upheaval and destruction. And I'm just not into upheaval and destruction. I feel like we have enough. So we're going to balance it with the Chinese idea of growth and organic growth. All right. Then we have the Emperor of the Dark Array, the curved array, whose name is Eric. He's a man I know. Scary man. Scary, scary. The Emperor of the Dark Array, of the curved array, he aligns to the star card in the regular tarot, in the major arcana. But what he does and like where he exists as part of the Little Dipper. But I like to think of him as the Lord of the back of the moon that we never see. We never see the back of the moon because the moon orbits the earth. Like it just stays in this same view. So whatever's going on the back side of the moon, the dark side of the moon. Yes. The Emperor of the Dark Array, tidal lock. Yeah, very much. The Emperor of the Dark Array is a lot about how we experience our pineal gland and the way that our pineal gland helps repair tissues. I'm going to pull his picture up large for the TikTokers. Here we go. And his job cosmically is he assists all of the life on Earth. So he's like Father Time. He is. But he goes with our pineal gland. He goes with the reparations in our body that don't occur in sun. My darling girl, please. My goodness. I know, she's having a meltdown. So one of the things that the Emperor, this curved array, guides us towards, in my experience, is that idea of deep rest. And if he had any Hertz frequencies, this would be the Hertz frequency of delta. Very low, long waves, oscillations that happen in our brain that help our brain repair itself. One of the jobs our pineal gland has is our whole circadian rhythm. If you have any amount of insomnia, you know what I'm saying. It can be a strange experience. When we're in deep rest, one of the things that happens is our lymphatic system in our brain cleans our brain. We have a whole cleaning crew in our brain, but it only happens in deep rest. And that is like a nighttime without the sun kind of thing. Hi. Oh my goodness. My cat's having a meltdown. Yeah. Dark array, curved array. Darla, she's being rude. My kitty. The hexagram for the curved array is mountain over wind. Wind, the idea of wind in the cosmology of China, as much as I've been given access to that I can perceive and understand, is one way to contemplate like the immortality of the way that our breath keeps us going. Also, wind goes with our lungs, with the metal element. And so it has a lot to do with us being a species that breathes air. We don't have gills, we have lungs. I'm just looking at what I said. I said it's his presence, deep rest of delta waves. So these are pulses under 4 hertz. And he restores, oh, the default mode network in our brain. Yes. Oh my goodness. So where's my little thing that shows us all of our, that shows you that I have not left where I'm sitting and I've already misplaced something. Like the little rascals, Darla. You know, she and Norman, well, first of all, their mother is a garbage pail cat. And their litter was named like old timey names. So maybe, but her middle name is Artemis, she told me. Darla Artemis. All right, so we have 3 major networks in our brain: the default mode, the central executive, and the salience network. And I'm going to go get her. I'm just going to turn on the tub just for a second. Yes, ma'am. Come on, let's get you some water. Yeah, I know. You're being very rude. Come on. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So imagine your brain is a can, okay? Not a can of worms, but a can in that we can see so much inside of our bodies now with the technology that we have. And I'm so grateful. I had cancer. Please measure me to life, right? But sometimes whatever we measure doesn't match our lived experience. If you have a vagina and the word, what's that word, anxiety, is anywhere on your chart, often the default setting from a doctor is, oh, it must just be anxiety. It couldn't actually be like damage to your body, right? So if it's happening in our brain, we don't really know for sure, truly, which is very exciting. It is. So in the early 2000s, neuroscience identified that we have 3 whole major neural networks in our brain that are doing things for us. The default mode network is rest and digest. It is passive reflection. The default mode network is what is active when, how do I keep losing my religion? Losing my religion. Here we go. So the default mode network is oriented. It orients us towards like having a lunch in the woods with a good friend on perfect weather day, and the breeze is happening and you're totally comfortable and you can just relax, and then you get ideas and insights. The default mode network, for those of us with autism and other neurodivergencies, there's a lot of research that we have odd tuning to our default mode, or it's the pathways are more complex. And so this alchemy from China that is so simple with those breaths can help create little tiny, they're like little sub-processes so that the neurons in our brain and our neuroplasticity can start to create new patterns. So the default mode is that long and lean. It's going to be long and lean, like that. The central executive network is the one that we call executive functioning. And that aligns to chi, ki, fire. The central executive network is like task memories and prioritizing things. And I'm not very strong in that anymore since I had a stroke and cancer. That changed. So central executive and default mode, they receive instructions from our salience network. Our salience network is way up at the top. And when information and what's the word? Sensory input comes in from the universe, from the world, or from our thought, our salience network goes, oh, this one goes to the default mode. This goes to the central executive. This goes to the default central executive. And it parses it out. My suspicion is for some brains, the default mode is also, we also experience it as patterns, right? And if you lack the neural pruning, which is something that happens with autistic brains, if you have brain damage, if you have other neurodivergencies, synesthesia, aphantasia, aphasia, dyscalculia, I mean, all the labels that we just get to our brain, the relationship between salient, central, and default is more complicated and complex. So I'm hoping, and I know we're have to get used to it, right? If we think about our brain like a CMY cube, the default mode network would be this yellow. Central executive would be the magenta. Salience is blue. And that goes with our three treasures, Shen, Qi, and Jing. But you can see in the cube, I know our brain is in a cube, but we're just going to think about it this way. When I move this cube, you perceive it in different ways. And when all three colors come together, they turn black. This is called, what do they call it? Like reductive color theory or something. I honestly think about this more like pigment, more like anything that's happening beyond the skin, and especially in my own experience of my brain, you will never know fully, can never know fully. We can have so much agreement and be in communication and seeking understanding. But at the end of the day, it's your brain. So my general attitude is we are whole and complete by virtue of the fact that we exist, regardless of the challenges, regardless. And if we don't start there, it's challenging to help other things have new pathways of experience. You agree? Yeah. So neuroaffective somatics is the framework I put together so that we can contemplate the body in relationship to things like your body bagua, how the different trigrams of the bagua align to our different systems, where I think I aligned wind to respiration, thunder to immunity, water to our connective tissue. And it's been my experience, if I have more than one way to relate to an idea, I have more than one pathway to remember it or engage with it. Sadly, it also means you're never going to see the whole picture all at once. Oh my goodness. But who does? None of us sees everything at the same time. Let's pick another card. I love this one. This is the world. This is the card for the practice is called memetics or meme. The image is the belly of a soft shell turtle. And this is China becoming writing. This is China's cuneiform writing, communication. The hexagram is called the gentle, grace. And this has to do with this oracle bone is among the earliest forms of Chinese divination, written divination. Each mark is a message bridging human inquiry and cosmic will. The turtle shell itself is a phenotype, and it carries the memory of life, just like the inscriptions carry spiritual memory. This turtle, this Chinese soft shell turtle, is also the basis of the geometry of Feng Shui and Lo Shu, which are two different ways to play with this. This would be as below. This would be looking up at the belly of a turtle. That's how we would relate to it, though. We'd be looking up at it. So imagine like being a little bug in the grass, and you can see all of this. So grace as a hexagram has a lot to do with how we communicate and how we interpret meaning. One of the I don't want to call it a warning, but one of the major ideas in Taoism is the Tao that can be named is not the Tao, that anything that we're labeling, measuring, or naming is in physics form, it would be a collapse in the wave. Alchemically, it just creates a terminus. And if we want to go on forever infinitively, we're going to pivot that from terminus to tangent. So all of these images and the hexagrams and the symbols are to guide our own Shen that animate us and give us our consciousness and sentience, give them ways to grow that are open and organic in nature. It is an important balance to living digitally, I think, personally. This is my opinion. I'm going to say goodbye to my friends over here.